I'm looking forward to Richard's sermon on the art of living fully, ancient wisdom for us. Since it's summer reading season, I'll recommend one related novel on living fully. That's not it. Dance. All right. How many of you read The Midnight Library by? Okay, I see quite a few hands. Great. I don't want to spoil the book for those who may be interested in reading it, so I'll share only the opening epigraph that'll give you a taste of the story. Imagine that between life and death, there is a library. And within that library, the shelves go on forever. And every book provides a chance to try another life you could have lived, kind of like a sliding door moment, to see how things would be if you had made other choices. Would you have done anything different if you had a chance to undo your regrets? So this book might be a summer reading option for you if you might enjoy a fictionalized exploration of the road not taken. Turning to the other part of the sermon title, Ancient Wisdom for Us, I'll share one related social media meme from the artist Nara Spliff about very simple practices that wise humans have been using for millennia that can shift our inner state of being. Notice as I go through these, if one or more particularly resonates with you as, oh, that might be something I need to experiment with later today or into the next week and beyond. First, if you're overthinking, try writing. My favorite way of doing this, how many of you have ever done Julia Cameron's morning pages from her famous book, Artist Way? So the way this works, you can do them however you want, but I do think there's some wisdom in the way she recommends doing writing by longhand, which a lot of us don't do anymore. So just get out a legal pad or a notebook and do 3 pages stream of consciousness longhand. It's a brain dump. It gets everything out of your head and onto the page. And literally, if you're just writing, this is stupid, I don't know why I'm doing this, like just truly stream of consciousness. This really works. If you're overthinking, try writing. If you're uninspired, try reading. You all know I'm a big fan, so this is what is sometimes called salvation by bibliography. If you're scared, take a risk and really ask yourself, what's really at risk underneath my fear? And realize, as Howard Zinn famously said, you can't stay neutral on a moving train. And your life is a moving train. That by not taking that risk, by not doing, that is also a choice. So just kind of ask yourself, if I do this, take this risk, what's like the worst, kind of what's the thing, what's at risk? But then what's at risk if I don't do it, right? And really kind of weigh those things. If you're stuck, take a walk. Take your problems for a walk. Henry David Thoreau, our transcendentalist forebear from the Unitarian side of our UU history, wrote a famous essay called Walking, in which he said, I cannot preserve my health and my spirit unless I spend at least 4 hours a day, commonly more than that, sauntering through the woods and over the hills and over the fields, absolutely free from worldly engagement. 4 hours a day minimum. Similarly, Thoreau, now of course, very privileged thing to say, right? That's a whole separate discussion. We don't have time to get into that. But, he was eating dinner at Thoreau's house and having Emerson's house and having Emerson's wife do his laundry and all that. That's a separate conversation. But anyway, Thoreau wrote in his journal in 1851 that the moment my legs begin to move, my thoughts begin to flow. And that's that kind of uninspired take a walk. Stuck, take a walk. As if I had given vent to the steam at the lower end and consequently new fountains flowed into the upper. So, as you start those legs walking, things start flowing upwards. Only when we are in action is the circulation perfect. The writing that consists of habitual sitting is mechanical, wooden, and dull to read. So that simple act of getting outside and out of your head and into your body, it gives our hearts, our minds, our spirits time and space to free associate, to be open to inspiration, creativity, and new ideas. I think this is an important one. If you're tired, sleep if you can, right? I have a 13-month-old. It's not always an option. But if you're tired, sleep. We're not machines. Listen to what your body is telling you. And if I could, one of the changes I'd love to make in our society is to make nap pods ubiquitous. Where like just wherever you are, at work, wherever, you can just like take a nap. If you're confused, ask. Others probably have the same question. Frustrated, move. It's parallel to walking. Just kind of get it flowing. If you're burned out, take a day off. But here's something I think we all kind of need to wrestle with, especially in this summer season. Time off won't heal you when your problem is how you spend your time on. You can take a sabbatical, but if you go right back to working 120 hours a week, you're going to go right back to burnout. So it's not just about our time off. It's also about how you sustainable time on. If you're impatient, review your progress. Have any of you ever done, I know many of you have probably done to-do lists, right? Would you scratch it off? Have you ever done a done list? So that as you go through your day, as you get something done, make a list of that. So at the end of the day, you can remind yourself of all the stuff you got done. It can actually be really great, because often I make to-do lists and I just delete them when I'm done. And then I don't really fully appreciate and savor how much I got done. Unmotivated, remember your why. What is it that gives your life meaning and purpose? To quote a philosopher, it can be helpful to experiment with letting go of this question, what is the one true meaning of life? And instead, just seek meaning in your life. Of to end, just changing that one preposition, the meaning of life to meaning in life. Perhaps you find meaning in your work, in volunteering, in hobbies, in your family or friends. It's all about saying yes more often to those people, places, and things and practices that most consistently make you feel grateful, more fully alive, more energized, more connected to yourself, others, and the world. I'll end for now with a quote from Monty Python's The Meaning of Life. Since that film debuted more than 40 years ago, I do not feel bad about spoiling one scene. It's on you if you haven't seen this film. Toward the end of the film, one of the actors receives a golden envelope that contains the meaning of life. And upon reading the card, the actor declares, "Oh, that's nothing very special." Then reads aloud the meaning of life. This is the meaning of life. Try and be nice to people. Avoid eating unhealthy foods. Read a good book every now and then. Get some walking in. And try to live together in peace and harmony with people of all creeds and nations. That sounds about right. For now, as we prepare for the minute of silence to follow, I'll leave up this slide of these simple shifts you can take in how you are in the world to shift your inner state of being as you discern what is the one next right step for you in this season of your life.
First off, it's rather humbling to take this podium, this pulpit, and speak each week when we gather, at least for me, wisdom shared, knowledge gained, insight, and may I contribute to that. When this sermon, this talk is online, there's an additional page where I list resources and links, because this is sort of a survey of some areas. So you can go to that, to the actual practices. So I invite you to look there in a couple days. A few weeks ago, Dwayne Muscroft gave a sermon entitled, "Play Through the Change." He pointed out change is constant. It is at times a challenge, especially if the unexpected happens. Losing a job, a serious illness, financial crisis. He stated, and how true, we frequently resist change even when it's needed. He suggested ways to cope, deal with, and even embrace change. Has inspired me, and maybe it did you. And as I thought that day, I have been thinking about ancient practices for a couple months now. His words combined with what I was thinking, and it inspired me. He shared this quote: "You cannot discover oceans unless you have the courage to leave the shore. To leave the shore explore the oceans and discover what is out there. In that I make up, change is desired, even mandated. Yet we may wonder, who am I to do this? What do I need to take this step? Why take this step? What are my inner resources? What purpose will it serve? What are my oceans and lands to explore? What change is needed? My invitation to you is to consider pathways, insights, guidance that ancient practices and wisdom might allow you to take that step. Or is it a boat ride on your ocean? Discover your land, your adventure. My life, even my life work, still continuing, by the way, as an interfaith minister, therapist, and life coach, is discovering for myself and in helping people discover their strengths, their oceans, the adventures, and land beyond. Abraham Maslow spoke to this in describing the hierarchy of needs. When we have our most basic needs met, physiological, safety, found our tribe, found love, intimacy, belonging, have overcome mostly the negative scripts and have a sense in that of our identity, we move to a deep desire, the hunger for something more, frequently for the sake of, to better our community, that it can occur through self-actualization. There are contemporary sources to gain insight, finding paths for our self-actualization. There is a plethora of self-help books out there, probably in the title, 7 Easy Steps for Self-Actualization. Or as my husband said, Transcendence for Dummies. And despite my sarcasm, some can be quite good. And there are therapists, life coaches, spiritual directors, ministers, wisdom sources like elders, a community like ours, workshops that can provide guidance as well. And our ancestors provided sacred ways that might bring forth ancient wisdom for our now, and today that is my focus. There are many, many sacred pathways to gain insight and to self-actualization. Joe reminded me in my early conversation, music. Yeah. Holotropic breath work, drumming, meditation, prayer, Kabbalah, mindful walking, yoga, tantric work, vision quest, El Camino de Santiago Trail in Spain, or take the Appalachian Trail. Mandalas, Tai Chi, pagan rituals, chanting, and many, many more. On a very practical level, most of these practices marry the brain and the body so that wisdom can come from within. Yes, we stay too much in our heads. Move out of our dualistic thinking, heaven, earth, good, bad, mind, body, to a non-dualistic ability to hold diverse or paradoxical beliefs, and or a oneness, even a transcendent perspective. They involve body in movement, which gets the right, left brain working, neural pathways opening in ways that weren't there before. They increase serotonin, dopamine, oxytocin, all positive, feel-good hormones, surging or can surge through our body, and lower cortisol, the stress hormone, are often done in community and thus reinforce a sense of belonging. These are pathways to self-actualization. And let me clarify something about self-actualization. There is something about the phrase self-actualization that disturbs me, that it might be interpreted as navel-gazing, self-absorbed narcissism. Maslow certainly never intended that. The practice I will speak of were consciously done in community, for the sake of community. The going in, the reflection, always complements a moving out for the betterment of others, for community. I will talk explicitly about 3 practices. Each one could be a sermon in itself or any of the other practices that I mentioned. The first, the labyrinth. Upper corner is, of course, our beautiful labyrinth. The one in the right corner is near here. It's Bon Secours Spiritual Center in Marriottsville. It's one of my favorite places to go. Many moons ago, I had a client who was an evangelical Christian, emotionally, spiritually struggling, the faith that had guided him so well, compromised by politics, decidedly un-Jesus-like behaviors, and Trumpism. He was working out his core values. What did being a Christian mean now? What did he believe? What was his purpose? Who was he? He told me he found a labyrinth, and in his uncertainty, decided to walk it. He had a sense of serenity, groundedness, mindfulness. Moving inward, he heard a voice tell him, "Let go of your rigidity." Arriving at the center, he paused, he prayed, he listened, he sensed, "You are loved by God. You are a good man, a loving father, a devoted husband." As he reversed his path out, moving outward to leave the labyrinth, he heard, "Be more present with your family." His experience, having walked it only once, was unusual and common. More intentional, frequent use of a labyrinth is an ancient wisdom practice. A traditional way to walk the labyrinth meditatively is to have an intent such as, "What do I need to know?" Consider as you enter, moving inwardly, geographically, and spiritually, you would consider, what do you need to let go of? As you enter the center, your center, notice what and who you are. As you walk, leave the labyrinth. What do you need to take on? Embrace. Let the labyrinth speak to you. I didn't know Layla was going to do an intro to dance. But there's a synchronicity, isn't it? I mean, Joe's song led us. Joseph Campbell, wisdom source about world mythology, tells a story that an indigenous people were asked, "What is your theology? What is your philosophy?" There was a pause, and the response, "We dance." The static dance can be found with the Sufi whirling dervishes. They dance to the glory of God, move to a mystical state, and in so doing, seek spiritual perfection. The sacred sun dance, indigenous peoples of the Navajo, Lakota, Among others, dance for 3 days. They then commune together, sharing the wisdom revealed in the dance by the Great Spirit, the Great Mother, the Creator, for the sake of the dancer and for the community, for learning and healing. A marriage of this ancient practice of dance with contemporary is the work of Gabriel Roth, who died in 2019. She birthed the 5 rhythms, which provide a theology, a philosophy of ecstatic dance. The dance invites you to the question, do you have the discipline to be a free spirit? Yeah. To use your body as a vehicle to wisdom and spirit. To sweat your prayers, as Roth called it. Roth's 5 rhythms, which she describes as flowing, staccato, chaos, lyrical, and stillness, invite you to weave your body, heart, mind, soul, spirit together. The dance may last an hour or may go on all day. The 5 rhythms provides a path to transcendence, to greater consciousness, to self-actualization, and the ecstatic dance is fun. Estrogens. I just had to watch how you said it. Thank you. Sacred medicine, plant medicine, magic mushrooms, many names for psychedelics. I'm getting a message. Many names for psychedelic substances. Experts in the field think plant medicine has been used by cultures, spiritual communities for at least 3,000 years, maybe even 5,000 years, since they have been seen painted in caves and sculptures dating from that era showing these mushrooms. Now what you're seeing there below the beast, I guess it would be to the right-hand corner, you can see painted across the bottom, which are psilocybin mushrooms that are grown naturally in this area of Spain. And then you notice in the other picture, it's a labyrinth, really. And in between the labyrinth is a mushroom growing, and that is a psilocybin mushroom, again, from Spain. There are approximately 180 known psilocybin mushroom varieties throughout the world. They grow in decaying hardwood and in pastures growing in cow dung. Michael Pollan, best-selling 218 book, How to Change Your Mind, What the New Science of Psychedelics Teaches Us. See some nods? Who's read that? Yeah. Has drawn attention to the psychedelics. The information I share is from my own experience with psilocybin, Pollan's work, research papers, and particularly the work of Hopkins researcher William Bill Richards, who continues his life purpose for 50 years now, studying, leading research, and being a guide with psychedelic substances. I recommend his book, Sacred Knowledge, Psychedelics, and Religious Experience. The word psychedelic means mind manifesting. Since 1999, Johns Hopkins Hospital and other organizations has found psilocybin effective to treat end-of-life anxiety, depression, and angst. Curtailed addiction in long-term users, treatment for anxiety, depression, and PTSD, And in 2017, 24 Christian, Jewish, and Buddhist ministers provided or under the direction of Hopkins underwent a psychedelic journey to investigate, does inducing a mystical experience impact spiritual life? The short answer is yes. Why did ancient communities have ceremony around mushrooms? Their answer is that these plants are gifts from the Creator to heal and to teach. If you consider this pathway, warnings to consider. It is illegal to possess any psychedelics, even though they grow naturally, can be homegrown, and are accessible. Use of psilocybin and other psychedelics can be done through 200 FDA-approved psychedelic research organizations. There are clinicians, shamans, spiritual guides, and retreats offering individual and group plant medicine ceremonies. If interested, always investigate to ensure legitimately and if they are safe. Danger. Psilocybin mushrooms can easily be confused with poisonous mushrooms that can result in death. But they may create a transcendence for you too. You won't be able to bring it back to the community then, though. Okay, yeah. Plant medicines are considered teachers and healers. Therefore, one may experience nothing at all, a sense of calm, or a deep, experiential, mystical experience. And what you most don't like about yourself, the darkness, may show up, the monster within. If you flee it, it will follow you, which can create a bad trip. Bill Richards writes, "To the importance of a guide's presence. The monster has meaning, and it's an invitation to enhance psychological health and spiritual maturity. Its purpose is not to torment, but to teach and heal. Therefore, never use alone. Have an experienced guide, shaman, clinician present. The psilocybin molecule interacts with your brain, creating an experience that is unique to you. Mystical, conscious-raising journey, and that you may have healing and wisdom. The psilocybin journey is about 4 to 6 hours. It may feel like a vivid dream where you may experience meeting people, other creatures, colors, lights, places. Most experience deeply awe, AWE. Some insights people report, even years afterwards, a continuing sense of unity, transcendence of time and space. They feel part of something more, something greater than themselves. Intuitive knowledge, sacredness, deeply felt positive mood, ineffability, acceptance, and paradoxicality. Most report it was a most life-transformational experience, a peak experience ranking equal to the birth of their child or their marriage. It shifted their perspectives about themselves, self-actualization, and the world. And they report a continuing sense of compassion, gratitude, and increased generosity and feeling purposeful. So continue the conversation about these ancient sacred pathways. They all can provide what I just mentioned. Call it self-actualization, deeper consciousness, inner work leading to outer work. There are many contemporary and sacred ancient practices that may guide you. Many of you are already doing them, like yoga, meditation. May this lead you to the hunger to explore your oceans, your lands, the adventure. Invite you to consider an ancient wisdom path. Find your path, and here's to more of that in the world. If you're watching virtually or in person, thank you for being here. Talk about your pathways. What might intrigue you to investigate one of these ancient pathways? For those present, we do a very European sacred pathway for this chat and enlightenment to continue. We call it coffee hour. May the conversation continue wherever you are. And with a grin and a bit of humor, maybe not humor, I share with you a vision for UUCF. Dances have occurred in this space. We have a labyrinth. Our Unitarian Universalist values invite us to new knowledge and experience. There is decaying wood on this property and a cow pasture next door. It would not surprise me to find psilocybin mushrooms nearby. Perhaps, why do you laugh? We can marry many ancient practices here and create the twirling Unitarians. Folks, this could be a movement. And thank you for this time.
All right. Thank you, Richard. I want to add just one final thought, because I think Richard is right on with what he was saying about Maslow's self-actualization is not about ego. It's not about narcissism. It's not about growing into like super ego, like, self, ego actualized or something. I'll give you just two lenses to think about this through the two spiritual traditions I know best, which is Christianity and Buddhism. From the ego's perspective, that Christian admonition to love your neighbor as yourself, the second greatest commandment, it can feel like a chore. It's like something you have to do. Love my neighbor as myself. I'd rather love myself, right? But these spiritual practices, what the Christian mystics have always said, the deepest truth underneath that is you come to see through mystical unitive experiences that you can love your neighbor as yourself with joy, because on the deepest level, your neighbor is yourself. And that's the sense in which we're talking about that self-actualization. Is sometimes called like capital S self. Or from the Buddhist perspective, Buddhists teach non-self, right? Which is, there's really just, it's paradoxical, but they're really deeply saying the same thing. And from the Buddhist perspective, you realize that yourself is ultimately a construct, that we realize, as some of you have heard me say before, the biggest insight I've had from meditating is that it is process and relationship all the way down. That reality is process and relationship all the way down. And that's the bodhisattva path of living out. And it becomes really, it's that interdependence. It's that Buddhist, it's the our value on the back of your order of service, that interdependent web of all existence, of which we are very much a part. Or that famous saying from Sri Nisargadatta that wisdom tells me, the Buddhist teaching about non-self, wisdom tells me I am nothing. There is no self ultimately, but love tells me I am everything. And between those two poles, my life flows. And that's that ancient wisdom for living fully today. So may you continue your journey with love. Care for one another, care for this one earth, do justice and make peace. And as you go, whatever taste or touch you've had in this time and place of hope, of love, of peace or joy, that goes with you into the world. We are different for having spent this time together. May you live boldly. May you live with thanksgiving.